Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're going to be doing a historic best of one meta breakdown. The historic challenge is coming this weekend, so you can win a bunch of packs. So we are going to find you the best decks to play in the format. This is for best of one. I'll take a look to see if the data is there for best of three, and we can do that. But we're getting all the data from Untapped GG, companion tool that runs alongside Arena Client, tracks your win rates, loss rates, a whole bunch of collection aggregation, a bunch of cool functionality that's free to use for the most part. The link is in the video description down below if you want to click follow that, get it installed. I'll also paste these deck lists in the video description. So, and if I do have videos of any of these in action, I'll list those too if you want to see how the deck plays out. So we'll jump into it. It's July 28th to the 3rd of August. Platinum to Mythic, 28,000 games of Magic played. We've had the anthologies, both Explorer and Historic, that are legal in these sets, so we've seen a bit of a shakeup. The top performing deck of the format this week is Jund Storm. It's an infinite mana combo with Grinning Ingus and either Birgi or Racketeer Boss, making this create a treasure, or Goblin Trap Finder, making this cheaper for a turn. You're basically going to do enter the battlefield effects, infinite mana, and eventually what you'll do, or infinite, or at least just infinite cast spells, depending on how you set up, and then you grape shot your opponent to death. You have ways to kind of assemble the combo. Wishclaw Talisman can search up your pieces. You have Village Rites, Deadly Dispute to sack your weenie things, or you can steal your opponent's stuff and then sack it. You can also sack your Wishclaw Talisman with the trigger on the stack if you're in full control mode with Deadly Dispute, so you get that value there. And then lastly, you have like Thoughtseize, a trophy as kind of just tutorable in case you need a certain answer to your opponent's board state. The next deck we have is it Wizards? So there was a Jeskai Wizards list that had a slightly higher percentage, like fractions of a percentage. I don't think it's worth ruining your mana base and going 3 colors. It makes you worse against like the aggro decks. You have a higher likelihood of either tap lands or missing colors. This Izzet list is very powerful. It's been one of the top decks for the last few weeks. And you get it through the buff of Symmetry Sage. Whenever you cast a spell, an instant or sorcery, you get to buff base power to 3. So this makes all your small wizards or your things with prowess get an extra bonus. This also means that with Dreadhorde Arcanist, you can flash back more expensive spells like Expressive Iteration or Static Discharge. And the rest of the deck is just like Wizards. You can haste things out of nowhere with Reckless Charge. This can do a lot of blitz damage. You have a lot of burn between Wizard's Lightning, Static Discharge, Play with Fire, just kind of all mixed into there to do a whole bunch of damage, and a lot of good card advantage and Expressive Iteration. Consider that you can then kind of flash back with the Dreadhorde Arcanist. The next deck is actually my version of Mono Red Aggro. You can see as an example, played this 10 days ago. So a lot of the core of Mono Red has been there. I love Mono Red. I hit #1 Mythic this month with the Alchemy version of it. I'm always trying to innovate this deck. The new kind of hotness, in my opinion, is Ambergris. This is a card that's really, really good in this deck. You often lacked card advantage, and the way to kind of get around that is Ambergris lets you discard your hand. Oftentimes you're going to go like Burning Tree drops, refill your hand, and keep putting pressure on your opponent. This version here, you're going to notice no Goblin Chainwhirler. There's not really much you want to play Chainwhirler against in the format right now. Elves often scales out of it. There's not Cat Oven anymore, so they're not going to have those weenie things. Wizards has more toughness. Even like Azorius Affinities, like whatever, there's a turn or two you can get them, but oftentimes they scale out of that. So there's not really much it does, and Ambergris fills that role better. I'm on 2 Torbrand, 2 Embercleave, just as kind of your top end. Ferocidon's very good against the life gain combo, can just kill them on the spot, or kind of, well, not kill them, like lock them out. Incidental, there's a lot of decks that do have the life gain. Menace comes up a lot of times, or just extra chip damage. And then the card that I've been playing is just kind of need an answer, so Play with Fire. It helps me, like on turn 1, having a response to some of these creature decks. You can see there's a lot of 2 toughness that we can deal with, get it out of the way. Izzet Wizards? You can scale it with other removal spells, but 3 toughness. Like the Wizards matchup's the hardest one for Mono Red, but you can combine it with other effects. It gets Soul Warden out on turn 1 if they're on the play, so there's a lot of ways you can kind of play around with that. I'll link the video if you're interested in seeing this. I have like hundreds of games played with Mono Red. I'll show you on my profile after. Or I could probably show you here. So like I said, hit number 1 mythic with Alchemy Red, Historic Red. I'm at like 66% win rate. So you can see like all my versions, everything like that. Locked up last month, top 1200 with this deck. So in any case, Dragonstorm is the next deck. So this is the all-in combo version. So what you're trying to do here is just throw cards into your graveyard. You have Faithless Looting, Otherworldly Gaze, Cathartic Reunion, Cathartic Pyre, Prismari Command, and ideally what you want to do is put one of these dragons in, either Terror of the Peaks, Bladewing, or if you're able to generate 3 storm count. So Mizzix Mastery, target Dragonstorm is 2 storm count. Otherwise, you can do Mizzix Mastery targeting Emergent Ultimatum. That also kind of works with that. You have Unburial Rites that can target Scholar of the Lost Troves to then flash back Dragonstorm or Emergent Ultimatum. And basically what you're trying to do is get a Terror of the Peaks on the battlefield, and then a Bladewing the Risen in the graveyard, or just 2 copies, Legend Rule, and then it loops, and then you get infinite enter the battlefield effects that deal infinite damage thanks to Terror of the Peaks. This deck's very weak to graveyard hate, but it is a pretty reliable combo. There's so much looting that you could often find your combo pretty early on. A deck with some of the new cards in the format. We have Azorius Affinity. So this is a deck that's like artifact theme, and we're getting Ensoul Artifact as the addition to this deck. Turns any artifact into a 5/5. So you have affinity cards like Thought Monitor that refills your hand, costs 1 less for each artifact you control. Nettle Cyst is an enchantment that creates a 0/0 token living weapon. And then you also get a buff for each artifact and enchantment you control. We got the addition of Darksteel Citadel. Indestructible Land plays really nicely with Ensoul. And we also have the Indestructible Dual Lands in Razor Tide Bridge in this case. Otherwise, you have like a bunch of card advantage through like Ingenious Smith, Metallic Rebukes, 1 mana leak oftentimes, Portable Holes, mainboard Graveyard Hate, attacks from Esper Sentinel, so a lot of utility in the deck there. You'll sometimes see these decks play 4 mana Karn as well, not the Great Creator Corporate Karn with Pants. To make artifact tokens. Next up, we have Mono Green Elves. So this deck here is looking to generate a bunch of mana through elves. You have a lot of synergies. So like Llanowar Elf ramps you. You should probably over Jaspera Sentinel be playing Elvish Mystic now. Just always generate the mana. That's probably the change I would make. While having Reach could be relevant, I think just always ramping is more effective. You have Elvish Archdruid that taps based on the number of elves you control. So this generates a whole bunch of mana. That mana could then be pumped into things like Elvish Warmaster. Warmaster makes more elves. You have like Dwindlin that makes more elves, but you pump your mana into this or into Allosaur Shepherd to buff your elf squad. Impervious Perfect is another lord. You have Freyleys for card advantage or just tap on tap shenanigans. Growing Rights is Gaia's Cradle at home, and then you go to your top end of Craterhoof Behemoth, which can be tutored with Fierce Empath. And then we have Azorius Control. So this deck here should be playing Supreme Verdict. You can cast it, like the Uncounterable is technically the better line, just since that way, like the creature decks like Azorius Affinity that do play counterspells, it's uncounterable, so you get that value there. But otherwise, this is the No Fun Police. Sweepers, counters, spot removal. You win through like Wandering Emperor or Teferi Alt or Shark Typhoon typically being hard cast. This version's playing a Dream Trawler just to close the games out faster as well. And then if you're feeling spunky, we got Temur Gates. Is this deck good? Is it fun? Most likely. So this is a Maze's End deck. And notably the card that we got that kind of turbocharges this from Baldur's Gate is the aforementioned Baldur's Gate. This is 2 mana and you add X mana of any one color where X is the other gates you control. So it's like Cabal Coffers but for gates. You also have these monocolor gates that seek. So you can play lands that basically draw cards for you late game. This gives you also a higher number of unique gates for the Maze's End win condition where you need 10 gates. Outside of that, you got a scalable sweeper in Gates Ablaze. 8 pieces or 12 pieces of accelerants with putting extra lands, and then 4 tutораbles. And then your creatures are Gatebreaker Ram, which just gets real swole based on the number of your gates, and then Hydroid Krasis to refill your hand and gain you a bunch of life. So that's it for the week. Let me know how it goes. If you do 7-0 in the best of 1, let me know what deck you did with in the comments, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching.